Greetings, friends. Hello, welcome to another month of Whisky Me live tasting. This month, I'm super excited. We've got two fantastic guests. I hope you're ready. Hope you're prepared. Hope you've got your glasses, maybe some snacks as well, because we're going to visit two fantastic distilleries. We're going to be starting with Wolfburn and their 10-year-old, right at the top of Scotland. And we're going to be joined by Mark Westmorland very, very shortly. And then we are going to be moving from the top of Scotland, quite far away, to the top of India and to Rampur, where we're going to be joined by Kunal, who, by the way, you have to hang on for Kunal, even if you don't have the World Whisky subscription, because for the second time running, he has stayed up late into the night in India. I think he just said it's about 12:30 out there at night, and so give the man his dues. We need to look after him and ask lots of nice questions and keep him awake. But we're speaking to Kunal in about 15 minutes. First, we are going to do Wolfburn, and I'm going to introduce Mark Westmorland. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
All right, just yourself? All good?
Good, thank you. I'm really good. Yeah. It's nice. There's a bit of summer going on, and I'm excited to be tasting your whiskey.
Yeah, it's lovely when the weather's sort of with that sort of yellowy, orangey things in the sky in Scotland. We don't get it a lot, but we certainly take advantage of it when it is here.
Indeed.
I prefer the rain because that's what makes the whiskey.
Yeah, well, that is true. You need a lot of rain, and of course, Scotland gets that.
It does, yeah. And it stops at the skin, though. It doesn't go any deeper.
Yeah, that's true. Fortunately, yeah. Otherwise, everyone would inflate. Yeah. Well, do you know what? We struggle sometimes in May and June when the weather's good to get folk on the live tasting because it's nice light evenings and people are often out drinking. But we've got a solid crew in the house tonight who hopefully are going to ask some questions, and certainly they're going to provide some tasting notes for us.
Superb. No, it's really nice for you to give us the invite, and it's what we do, and it's what I do, getting the liquid to the lips. So Whisky Bee's doing that around with your subscriptions as well. So it's just an ideal way to put Wolfburn on the lips of people tonight and in the future, just to sort of spark their interest, so they can do the deep dive, come down the rabbit hole and see us.
Yeah, or the wolf hole, as the case may be. Yeah, I mean, it's we feature probably a disproportionate number of newer distilleries on Whisky Me, and I think that's partly due to the fact that new distilleries tend to be quite energized and keen to get out and talk a lot, and they've got an exciting newish product. And we're quite excited about what a lot of younger distilleries like yourselves are doing as well. And especially, this is actually the second time we featured Wolfburn. We featured you 5 years ago, back way in the early days when I guess you'd only just had sort of your first releases out. And so it's nice to return and to see how the Wolf is growing,
It's great for us because our first expressions came out in 2016, so just over 3 years old. Now, as you see, we've got the 10-year-old, which was a massive milestone for us to celebrate last year. And we're over 11 now, nearly 11 and a half. And the 12-year-old will be out next year as well. So where's the time gone? It's just.
Oh, you got 12-year-old. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, that was maybe
spoiler.
Let the cat out the bag there.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, when Tom, my partner, said we're going to be doing Wolfburn 10, I was like, yeah, God, I knew they'd released a 10-year-old, because I remember, of course, back when the distillery was in planning stage, and then when it finally, the stills started running and everything, and here we are 10 years or even more, 11 and a half years later, like you say, and you've grown up.
Yeah, and that's thanks to the effort and the motivation and the passion that we have. But the original Wolfburn distillery, 1821, lasted for 30, 40 years and then in Iraq and ruin. We've reawakened the Wolfburn name when we rebuilt the distillery from scratch, about 300 yards from where the old distillery was in Thurso, the most northerly town on the British mainland. Now, I'll put in a wee disclaimer, a wee bit of disclosure. I was born and bred there, so I'm completely biased. So I spent my formative years in the far north. But the great thing for us, we're a fiercely independent distillery, and that's not any political statement. That's just the fact that we are our own bosses. There's only 18 of us in the entire company. We bottle everything ourselves on site. We store everything else on site. We've got 6 warehouses, and it's a really sort of traditional, unhurried way that we make our whiskey. It's, we're not just coming in the morning, switching the computer on, and we're only doing 125,000 litres a year. I was listening to Scott Adamson at Cabochen on your last month, and he was saying that they do a run for a week and they have 60,000 litres. That's half our year's production. So it's a great thing with whiskey distilleries and tastes and flavour and scale. You just have to be adventurous and you have to be courageous to go out and try the relatively new ones or the ones that you've maybe not heard of, because we've sort of flown under the radar. We're quite humble in that respect, but you're not going to see us on the sides of buses or in glossy magazines. How we get our product out and all the designs are done in-house as well. It's about this. It's about, doing events. It's about pressing the flesh. It's getting the liquid to the lips, and it's seeing the delight and surprise on people's face as they taste our spirit. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Tell me about Thurso. What's it like growing up there? What's the town? I've not been. So what is it like?
It's brilliant. You've got the sea on one side on the beach. You look out over to Orkney. You can actually see the Old Man of Hoy, a sea stack, which is sort of world renowned for climbing. And then you've got a beautiful salmon river, and it's your playground. As a child, the water wasn't don't go near it or be careful. It was basically a walk down the street, a walk down the road, and you were on the beach or in the woods at the salmon pool, and it was just an absolute blast. Again, it's easy for me. Even when the distillery was built, those fields were covered with mushrooms, and I can remember going with my father and picking the mushrooms, and even the Wolfburn itself, the natural spring, getting your little net and trying to get the sticklebacks and over the moors where the natural spring rises and it runs down to the sea. So it's at the end of the earth. If you're making the journey, if you get your feet wet, you've gone too far. You need to stop at the edge.
I'm down in Cornwall, which obviously we've got Land's End, and I guess that it's kind of the southern equivalent in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've got the North Coast 500 now in Scotland, so that's on the doorstep. We're taking advantage of that with the traffic and
the tourism must be pretty good, right? For that,
yeah, and a lot of the cruise ships now are coming into Scrabster. They've got a deep water dock, so we're getting a couple of dozen cruise ships in this year as well. So every little helps, and as a North distillery, as a Highland, the highest of the Highland distilleries that's got product out at the moment, it's really nice for visitors from anywhere to come and see us, because it's a validation that people want to come and see us. Yeah. And we don't have a fancy visitor centre. We don't have a coffee shop or a restaurant. You're in to the belly of the beast as soon as you walk in the door. The stills are right in front of you, and the shop is right in front of the stills. So it's a beautiful experience, and it's modern day, efficient, but using traditional methods to make our product, which is quite fruity, quite floral, quite light, quite vibrant. That's the sort of DNA, that's the sort of essence of Wolfburn that we want. And we want it to be memorable for that reason.
And so that kind of description there, presumably that's been something of a learning experience for you guys, because although obviously you can control parameters of production, you can control your fermentation to some extent, your distillation, and you can select the shape of stills that you want, and you can select the casks. But, at the end of the day, there's only so much control you can have over what's going to come out at the other end. And you now have a 10-year-old. I guess, the releases that have come before that, I know there's been quite a few. How's that sort of played into arriving at this profile for this 10-year-old?
The sherry casks, set and fill Oloroso casks that we got 10 years ago were the first ones that we filled. So it's been a long, arduous wait for the 10-year-old. But the great thing for us, our first whiskies came out 3, 4, 5-year-old. So
Yeah.
it really put us under the microscope, and it put us on the want to watch sort of list for the distilleries, because people came to us, well-kent, learned fellows and fellow S's in the industry, saying that if you're producing this spirit this good, this young, what's it going to be like at 10, 12, 15? And we blew it out of the park last year when we released our 10-year-old. Hence the regal red, the statement of intent here. You've got your bottle there, snap.
Blood. Yeah.
and it's eye catching. But for a young distillery that we've been doing sort of non-age statements, we wanted that 10 to be like a conduit or a hook, or as I describe it, because the sea wolf. We want our claws in you. We want to sort of grab your attention. And if you've got a 10 on a shelf, it commands a bit of presence and it draws the eye. So when people look at the 10, and we've got our other opportunities round about the 10, because the 10 is part of our core range. It's the backbone of the brand as well. And that's the great thing about Wolfburn. You have to start with a firm foundation to grow the business. And then we can do some small batches and some special releases. But you need to make sure that the core is correct. And as we say at Wolfburn, fortune favours the brave. So, you've got to put some effort in to get the reward. And we're doing that.
Yeah, and actually, I think this does not look like a new distillery. There's something very classical and sort of time-honoured about it. It sort of fits in amongst all the sort of great 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 15-year-old whiskies that we know and love in terms of its visual appeal. And maybe less so in Scotland than elsewhere, but certainly in Scotland too, we're seeing a lot of new distilleries release products that are great, but the packaging is very kind of vibrant and bright. I mean, a lot like, Whisky Me packaging. But, that this is the route that a lot of them are going down. It's more sort of modern kind of thing, whereas it does feel like you've sort of staked that claim that, like, we're going to be around in 50 years, in 100 years. This is a long-term thing,
It's a statement of intent. It really is. And our design, even the bottles, they're bespoke bottles, oak caps, tin sleeve, there's nothing plastic about it. You're producing a great spirit. You want a great vehicle to market as well. So the 10-year-old, second fill Oloroso casks, and hopefully folk will have it in their glass at the moment.
Yeah. And that's nice. Yeah.
It's one of these, Oloroso, you're going to get that dry, nutty spiciness to it, but second fill, it's not going to be the huge sherry bomb that people expect. This is more subtle, it's more sophisticated. And remember, with anything, we don't want any of the cask maturation or wood management policy to overwhelm that new make spirit, that cleric that we have. We want the DNA and the essence of Wolfburn to be recognisable. And this just adds to it. This has just got, again, lovely sort of rich, chocolatey, like a fatness on the palate, that creaminess as well. I get lovely sort of raisin-esque sweetness as well. A wee bit of oakiness, a wee bit of wood there, but not overly woody or overpowering. But that fruity, lovely sort of dark fruity elements come through, and that sort of nutmeggy, that spice as well, which I really enjoy. So yeah, slange to everybody, and thanks very much for putting it in.
Yeah, for me, as you say, a 10-year-old whiskey that's full term in sherry casks. A lot of people, because of the way that we have been conditioned to think of sherry cask finishes and incredibly active sherry casks for like 18 months or 2 years and what they do to a whiskey, it's nothing like that. It's nicely resolved between the cask and the cleric. By the way, I don't hear enough people calling new make spirit cleric these days. That's
sorry, our cleric, it's got that beautiful sort of like banana, pineapple sweetness to it. It's like a lot of tropical fruit flavour. And, everybody will say you want the best cask that you can afford because you don't want any leakage, you want the thickest staves. But by using second fill Oloroso, it really just works so much with our initial cleric, the new make, and the maturation. And the 10 years, 11 years ago, it was not, we're putting it in second fill Oloroso casks and we're going to wait for 10 years and then we're going to release it. That was the statement. That was the foresight that our owners and our distillers had so many years ago. And all credit to them. We're winning the war in that respect.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant for that first release to be full term like that. So Liz has visited you, and she says it's great.
It's been described as one of the ugliest distilleries in Scotland from the outside because it looks like a cowshed, but I don't care. It's what's inside that counts, and that's where the beating heart of Wolfburn is.
Well, look, how many great distilleries in Scotland started out as cowsheds on the side of farms, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. As the old one probably did in 1821, Penguin Farm.
Yeah, probably. I mean, anything with any great lineage probably was part of a farm at some point, right? Yeah. So I don't know. You're getting kind of, I would say, round of applause bordering on standing ovation all round here.
Oh, wow.
And I tend to agree. It's lovely. It's a great whiskey, and I think, as you describe, it's sort of light and fruity, but the fruitiness is less of the sort of apples and orchard fruits and more sort of richer dried fruits and berries and things like that, which is obviously coming from that sherry cask.
Yeah, you want a richness and sweetness as well, like that sort of crystalline, sticky fruits, that raisiness, those figgy sort of sweetness flavors that I like coming through with our Oloroso influences that we've done. Not just this one, but various other casks as well. So yeah, if anybody's interested, do the deep dive and either come and see us or jump onto your local retailer and ask, or do the old interweb. Go for it.
Yeah. Right. Well, speaking of fruit, we have got, I think, just an absolute fruit bomb of a whiskey coming up next. We're going to taste Rampur Asava, which has been matured or finished, I think, in Cabernet Sauvignon cask, and this is just a tropical wonder. Mark, I apologise, we haven't got any of this to you, but maybe we'll try and get some after the fact because it's incredible. So, Kunal, without further ado, hello, mate.
Hi, Tristan. Thanks, Mark, for a wonderful explanation of Wolfburn, and good evening to everyone.
Good evening. Good evening to you. I'm trying to think, when was it we last visited you? About 2.5 years ago, I'm thinking, something like that.
About 2 years, right? Yeah, that's right.
2 years, and we did is it double wood or double cask? Is it called?
Double cask. We did Rampur double cask last time around.
And when we did that, I was raving to people afterwards. I was like, "Have you tried Rampur? It's just this incredible, fruity, vibrant, amazing whiskey that, for me, I could just tell by tasting it, this is not from Scotland. This is not from America. This is not from Ireland. This is not from Japan. This is from somewhere else entirely." And then when, people taste it and you say, well, it's an Indian whiskey, and they're like, yeah, of course, it makes sense, because it's just intensity of flavor is incredible in the stuff you're making.
That's right. Absolutely. Like how the Indian cuisine and Indian food is, it's generally very delicious and tasty and full of flavors, and it resonates in our whiskey as well. So we tend to do that, and we tend to achieve that. And it's natural because, since our master blender is also deeply rooted in India, and the whole senses, the palate, the whole structure comes like that with your your upbringing, your food, your culture, everything is bought into the whiskey. So that's a reason we also try our best to give India to the world, which you rightly said. It's not Scotland, it's not American, it's not Japanese, it's Indian. So because of that reason, the ingredients, the raw material used is everything Indian about it. Everything. And as a matter of fact, in my last discussion with you also, if I take a few minutes, I can explain exactly what all is Indian about it, in fact. So as you know that we don't use any European or Scottish barley, we use Indian barley. in our whiskey making process, which is a 6-row barley versus a 2-row barley. And since 6-row barley has got more protein into it, so once it's converted into alcohol, the whiskey tends to become very fruity and floral. So that's a basic core of the Rampur whiskey. It's a fruit bomb, to be honest with you, which you mentioned rightly. And also the area and Rampur, the geographical location of Rampur is absolutely brilliant. So we are blessed enough to locate it at the water belt of the North Indian region at the foothills of Himalayas, where there's abundance of Himalayan mountain water, which we use for distillation. And also the climate, the weather conditions, which are extreme. In winters, it's like 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, and it goes up to 46, 48 degrees Celsius in summers. So as we speak, in Delhi, it's 47 degrees Celsius outside. So this is
At night.
this is.
Surely not at night.
I think so. It's been cooled down. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I checked the day temperature. Must have cooled down by now. But as we speak, I can just check it for you, just in case you want.
No,
to
I
know the
believe
weather.
you. I just assumed it dropped a little bit at night. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's not bad. It's 31 right now. In the
Oh,
night.
really? Wow, 31 at midnight. Wow.
So because of this, the angel share is very high, and in the first year of maturation itself, our angel share goes up to 12%. Bloody greedy angels out there, and then it averages down to 7% as we move along. So, putting all these things, the barley, the climatic condition, and the water, we tend to achieve this Indianness in our whiskey, which is very tropical, very fruity and floral. And if you want to talk about Rampur Asava specifically, so it's everything Indian, in fact. So it's the world's first whiskey, in fact, ever been finished in an Indian Cabernet Sauvignon cask. You said it's finished in red wine cask, but it's an Indian red wine cask. So as you see here, so it's clearly written. It's an Indian red wine. Sorry, I can't. Yeah, it's an Indian red wine cask out here.
But for a lot of people watching and listening, probably they weren't even aware that India makes Cabernet Sauvignon. I think most people were aware that they make whiskey, but we didn't know that you were growing red wine grapes over there. So yeah, that's fascinating in itself.
Yeah, so this is a small boutique winery which is in the west part of India, which produces wine, and they age the wine in these French oak barrels, and once they're done with the finishing, we take the wine for our consumption, and those casks are then used for finishing of Rampur Asava, double whammy. So yeah, so Rampur Asava first is aged in first fill bourbon barrels, and then for approximately 9 to 8 months, it is into these Indian Cabernet Sauvignon casks for the finishing, and that's how the process goes. And Asava, the word Asava, is basically a Sanskrit word for wine. So this is how we try to give the authenticity to the world and see what we can offer to the world in terms of India. This is our genuine and authentic effort to show.
Well, I think it's fantastic. And I think just touching on the point that you made near the start there is that, the ingredients that we use to make whiskey, whether it's Scotland or India, obviously have an impact, but they're not so wildly different. So as the Wolfburn would taste as different as it does to Rampur. I do think that climate is obviously a huge factor in this, but also it's the hand of, or the mouth of the blender. And
Yes.
I think in Scotland, and this is generally speaking, of course, each person is different. We tend to blend to more of a specific flavor profile. We tend to blend maltier, fruitier, sometimes smoky whiskies. And it seems, well, at least at Rampur, but I've tasted other Indian whiskies as well, that it's fruit, it's tropical, it's bright, it's fragrant, it's kind of the things that you associate with Indian cuisine, or that I associate with Indian cuisine. And it's just so fascinating to see. And of course, this trend continues when you try Japanese whiskies. Lo and behold, you get cherry blossom, you get green tea, American whiskies, and so on and so forth. And it's just wonderful to see the tastes of every culture manifesting itself in what is effectively the same product. It's still made from malted barley. It's still aged in oak casks, still fermented and distilled in pot stills,
Super proud. Everybody's super proud of their country. Everybody's super proud of their product. Everybody, and you want it to be proclaimed across the world that it's Indian or it's Scotch or it's Japanese. That's what you.
Correct. It's all about the provenance, and in fact, and you should be true and authentic to the origins where the whiskey is being distilled, matured, and that's how you have to be different, and you need to give that part of the world to showcase exactly what you're doing there. So there are tons of other ways of blending and bringing in stuff from different parts, but that's not authentic. So once you give the authenticity, people love it and cherish it. And trust me, it's a flavor bomb. It's full of very it's so aromatic. On the aroma, it gives you a lot of dark fruit smell, like blackberries or plum. It's very Christmassy aroma which comes in when you just smell it. So perfumey, and when I go across the world and talk to people, and when you present it, the biggest or the most popular answer in terms of tropical fruit it resembles is lychee. So everybody thinks it's lychee.
Comments have gone nuts for lychees, if you excuse the complicated term there. It's definitely got a strong tropical character, and I think lychee is probably the one. It's so fruity in that way. Yeah, but there's other things going on there as well. Like you said, there's dark fruits. There's I think I get a little bit of mango in there too, some kiwi, pear, maybe.
Very tropical, yeah. And when you sip it, and it'll resemble the same thing, and it'll give you a hint of vanilla, manuka, honey sweetness. That kind of a sweetness will come.
There's a nice ginger to it as well. It's got gingery spice as well.
Yes, exactly, correct. And with a spiciness and some tobacco-ness comes from the dryness of the Indian wine. So it's basically pretty well balanced and complementing the whole fruitiness to it. So whereas the double cask was all fruity and floral, this is just to balance a bit of it. We did an experiment, and our master blender came out with a great product, balancing the whole whiskey. It's amazing.
I just find it incredible that you take Indian barley, you distill it, you put it in a red wine cask, and then you get all this incredible tropical stuff coming out. That's the magic of whiskey for me, is that none of these flavors have any right to be in this whiskey, and yet they made it there somehow,
Exactly. So it's all about that. And also just to let you know that Rampur is an area where a lot of lychees and mangoes are grown, and even sugarcane is grown. So as a master blender, when you are being in that environment and that climate, you try to find the same smell and aroma in your whiskey, and you try to achieve that, and that's how the whole process begins, and it's like you imbibe that in your whiskey.
You guys are just like snacking on lychees on the way into work in the morning, and then when you get there, you're like, no, not quite right. Yeah, that's the one, because it satisfies the lychee flavor in your mouth.
Absolutely, yeah, that's very true.
So fascinating. Like I say, we talk about terroir sometimes in peat or in barley, but the real terroir is the people. I think it's their particular sensibilities.
Absolutely, and that's the magic they bring on table. In fact, and that's the reason in November or December of 23, Rampur Asava was actually voted as the world's best world whiskey in Texas by John Barleycorn Awards. So it was amongst the world whiskey, yes,
Yeah.
was rated the top. So it's no brainer, what you rightly said. If you try to give the authenticity and the origins of that place, of that area, of the terroir and the people, oh, it's amazing. It's exciting. It's bloody good.
You don't need any smoke and mirrors when the product is honest and you put
True.
the hard work in and you put the effort in,
There you
because
go. Yeah.
because people, whiskey is very subjective. But if you do your damnedest to make the best for the consumer, I always say we spend so much time putting the whiskey in the bottle. It's got a hole in the bottle for a reason. We want it to come out, and we want people to taste it and discuss, and then hopefully spread the love of our product. But you have to have that love at the very beginning. You've got to have that passion. And you're
Yes,
right when
that's
you say
the
that
word,
the GI, the great geographical indicators for culture aspects as well. And that's a great. Hey, the world would be a very boring place if we were all the same. So it's
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to sort of mix it up and tantalize and excite people as well, which is great. That's what we're trying to do with the industry.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Exactly. Yeah. How old's Rampur? I know obviously the company is much older, but Rampur as a brand is relatively new, right, Kunal?
So yeah, we are not that old. We are just 83 years old now. In fact, sorry, 81 years old. So we were established in 1943, and we are currently one of the largest fully Indian-owned company. The first two being Pernod and Diageo. Last year, we closed down with 60 million 9-liter cases. As we speak, we have a small population of 1.42 billion people. So,
But Rampur, the brand
and
Rampur.
Rampur. So I was coming to that. So Rampur, we launched the first expression of Rampur in 2016 in Vegas, and so it's been almost now 8 years that the brand is there. And we launched 3
So
core
actually-
expressions.
Very
Actually,
similar.
as distilleries, you both launched the first product about the same time, then, right? Yeah.
16 for us. Yeah.
Yeah, but our malt distillery was conceptualized in 1992. So the Rampur distillery is 1943, the malt distillery 1992, and the first brand or the expression of Rampur was launched in 2016 when our master blender thought, here's the time to bottle it and give it to the world.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. You got a lot of love coming in. Oh no, wait, that was the wrong one. Mark, your comment about the hole in the bottle for the reason, that is a good one. I'm gonna reuse that at some point.
It's, there's some lovely whiskies out there that have just got shoulders covered in dust, and that's what we don't want. We don't want those dusty shoulders. We want to hear that and that cork getting out the window. Please drink responsibly, but share it and create memories. We all know we've had a great night out, who we were with, where we were, what we were drinking, and it's not just the spirit; it's the whole sort of feeling that you have. And whiskey drinking it's very mood worthy as well. Depends what kind of mood you're in. Depends how the whiskey's going to taste. But just be honest with yourselves.
That's
yeah,
true.
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Guys, thanks so much. It's a really fascinating talk. Like both of you, super interesting. And actually, it only just occurred to me then, but it is amazing that you both kind of released products around about the same time, and obviously quite different products and in different parts of the world, but both, doing amazing things. That's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity as well, and thanks to everybody that's watching and will be watching. And hopefully, as I say, we've pricked their interest and come to the dark side of our whiskey production and have a look and see what we're doing.
For sure. And before we go, happy 5th birthday to Simon, who's been with Whisky Me for 5 years on Tuesday.
No, brilliant.
Definitely one of the oldest members. We've been going 6.5 years, and there was a few people still knocking around right from the start. But 5 years is pretty good going. So well done, mate. Thank you. Great. Thank you, guys. We will see you all next month for next month's tasting. Kunal and Mark, thanks so much for joining us, guys. And